November 18, 1949. Ristorante Umberto, Naples. 8:47 p.m. Lucky Luciano was eating dinner, pick.What, his usual Thursday meal, when Tony the butcher Badalamenti walked through the door. Lucky recognized him immediately, one of Vito Genovese's men from New York. Young, arrogant, dangerous reputation back in the States. Tony walked straight to Lucky's table, didn't wait to be invited, just walked up and stood there, looking down at the man who'd once ruled the American mafia. "Charles Luciano," Tony said. "Loud enough for everyone to hear. I got a message for you." Lucky set down his fork, wiped his mouth with his napkin, looked up at Tony with those cold, calculating eyes. "I'm eating," Lucky said calmly. "I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Vito Genovese sent me. You listening?" The restaurant went quiet. 50 people stopped eating, stopped talking. Everyone knew who Lucky was, and everyone knew this was disrespect. "I'm listening," Lucky said. "Vito says you need to stop interfering with commission business. You're in E. You're finished. You don't run things anymore. So stop calling New York. Stop giving orders. Stop acting like you're still the boss." Tony leaned down, hands on Lucky's table. "You're a washed-up old man living off past glory. Accept it and stay out of the way." The entire restaurant held its breath. This was a death sentence. Nobody talked to Lucky Luciano like this. Not in Naples, not anywhere. But Lucky didn't explode, didn't rage, didn't signal his bodyguards. He just smiled. A cold, dead smile. "You finished?" Lucky asked. "Yeah, I'm finished." "You got the message?" "I got it," Lucky said. Then he stood up slowly. "Let me give you a message to take back to Vito." That's when Lucky's hand went to his jacket pocket. Tony's bodyguards tensed, started reaching for their weapons. But Lucky didn't pull a gun. He pulled out an ice pick. 8 inches long, sharp as a surgical instrument. The kind longshoremen used to break up ice blocks. "What the fuck is that?" Tony said, suddenly less confident. "This," Lucky said, "is how I handled disrespect before I got deported, and this is how I handle it now." Then Lucky moved. Fast. Professional. Like he'd done this 1,000 times before. The ice pick went into Tony's shoulder. First stab. Tony screamed. Second stab. Other shoulder. Third stab. Upper chest. Just missing the heart. Tony tried to fight back. Threw a punch, but Lucky was 62 and had been in more fights than Tony had been alive. Lucky dodged, grabbed Tony's arm and drove the ice pick into his bicep. Fourth stab. They crashed into a nearby table. Plates shattered. Wine spilled. People screamed and dove for cover. But Lucky didn't stop. Fifth stab. Tony's side. Sixth, his thigh. Seventh, back of his shoulder. Tony was bleeding now. Badly. Trying to crawl away, but Lucky was relentless. "You come into my city," Lucky said, his voice eerily calm despite the violence. "Into my restaurant. You disrespect me in front of my people. And you think there's no consequence." Eighth stab. Tony's back. Ninth, his other thigh. 10th, his arm again. Tony was crying now. Begging. "Please, I'm sorry. Vito made me." "Vito didn't make you do shit," Lucky said. "You chose to be disrespectful. You chose to deliver that message the way you did. You wanted to embarrass me. Make yourself look tough. Show everyone that Lucky Luciano is finished." 11th stab. Tony's shoulder blade. "So now everyone's watching. Everyone's seeing what happens when you disrespect me." 12th stab. Tony's lower back. 13th, his calf. 14th, his forearm. Lucky was methodical, precise. Each stab was calculated, designed to cause maximum pain without killing, at least not immediately. 15th stab. Tony's other calf. Tony had stopped screaming, was just whimpering now, curled in a ball on the blood-covered floor. The restaurant was silent, except for Tony's labored breathing and the sound of the ice pick puncturing flesh. 16th stab. Tony's thigh again. 17th. His shoulder. 18th. His side. Lucky stood over Tony, breathing heavy, but controlled. The ice pick dripped blood onto the checkered floor. "You tell Vito something for me," Lucky said, loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear. "You tell him Lucky Luciano is never finished. You tell him I run the commission from wherever the fuck I want. And you tell him the next messenger he sends better show some goddamn respect." 19th stab. Tony's back again. 20th. His leg. 21st. His shoulder one more time. Then Lucky stood up straight, looked at the ice pick, looked at Tony bleeding on the floor. 22nd stab. Right into Tony's ass. Not to kill, to humiliate. "That last one so you remember to be respectful when you sit down," Lucky said. He stepped over Tony's body, walked back to his table. His suit was covered in blood. His hands were red. The ice pick was still in his hand. He sat down in his chair, called over the waiter, who was pressed against the wall, white-faced with terror. "You," Lucky said, "get me a new tablecloth. This one's dirty." The waiter didn't move. Couldn't move. Was in shock. "Now," Lucky barked. The waiter jumped, scrambled to get a clean tablecloth. Lucky stood, let him change it, then sat back down. "Also," Lucky said calmly, wiping blood off his hands with his napkin, "bring me spaghetti and meatballs. Extra sauce, and a glass of Chianti. The good one." The waiter stared at him, at Tony bleeding on the floor, 6 feet away, at the blood on Lucky's suit, at the ice pick, now resting on the clean white tablecloth. "Did I stutter?" Lucky asked. "No, sir. Right away, sir." The waiter ran to the kitchen. Lucky looked around the restaurant, 50 people staring at him. Horrified, terrified. Some were crying. Some looked like they might vomit. "Anyone else have a message for me?" Lucky asked. His voice was conversational, pleasant almost. "Anyone else want to tell me I'm washed up? That I'm finished?" Silence. "No? Good. Then enjoy your dinners. And somebody call an ambulance for this idiot on the floor." Nobody moved. "I said call a fucking ambulance," Lucky shouted. Someone ran to the phone. The spaghetti arrived 8 minutes later. The waiter set it down with shaking hands. The glass of Chianti sloshed because his hands wouldn't stop trembling. "Thank you," Lucky said politely. He picked up his fork, twirled the spaghetti, took a bite. Tony Badalamenti was still on the floor, still breathing. Barely. Blood pooling around him. 22 stab wounds. The ambulance was on its way. But Tony had maybe 10 minutes left, and Lucky Luciano was eating spaghetti. He ate slowly, methodically, like nothing had happened, like there wasn't a dying man 6 feet from his table. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. Paramedics rushed in, saw Tony, saw the blood, started working frantically to stabilize him. Lucky didn't even look up from his pasta. They loaded Tony onto a stretcher, carried him out. He'd survive barely. Spend 3 months in the hospital, walk with a limp for the rest of his life, and carry 22 scars as a permanent reminder. After the ambulance left, Lucky finished his spaghetti, drank his Chianti, told the waiter over. "Excellent meal. My compliments to the chef. How much do I owe?" The owner, who'd been hiding in the kitchen, came out. "Mr. Luciano." "No charge, please. It's on the house. I insist on paying," Lucky said. He pulled out cash, left triple the bill plus a massive tip. "And I apologize for the mess. Send me the cleaning bill." He stood up, straightened his blood-stained suit jacket, picked up the ice pick, wiped it clean with his napkin, put it back in his pocket. Then he walked out of Ristorante Umberto like he'd just had a pleasant dinner. The story reached New York within 24 hours, not from Tony. He was in a hospital bed, barely conscious. From the other witnesses, from people who'd been in the restaurant, from people who'd seen Lucky Luciano stab a man 22 times and then eat spaghetti while the man bled out. Vito Genovese heard the story. His face went pale. Frank Costello called Lucky in Naples. "Charlie, what the fuck did you do?" "I delivered a message," Lucky said calmly. "Vito sent a messenger. I sent one back. You stabbed him 22 times. 23 if you count the ass. But who's counting? This is going to cause problems." "No," Lucky said. "This is going to solve problems. For 3 years, Vito's been telling people I'm finished. That exile made me soft, that I don't matter anymore. Well, now everyone knows. I'm not finished. I'm not soft. And I sure as hell still matter. By stabbing a guy in a restaurant, by showing that disrespect has consequences. Doesn't matter if I'm in New York or Naples. You disrespect the chairman, you pay the price." Frank was quiet for a moment. Then, "Fair enough. Message received. I'll make sure Vito understands." "Good. And Frank, tell him the next messenger better bring flowers and an apology. Otherwise, I'm keeping score. And I'm not as merciful the second time." Tony Badalamenti survived, barely. When he got out of the hospital 3 months later, he didn't return to New York immediately. He was too scared. He eventually went back, told Vito Genovese everything. The ice pick, the 22 stab wounds, the spaghetti. Vito's response: "You're lucky he didn't kill you. Lucky he stabbed me 22 times, and you're still alive," Vito said. That means he was being merciful. He was sending a message, not executing you. If he wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Tony was reassigned, sent to work in New Jersey. Far from commission politics, far from anything that might require him to interact with Lucky Luciano again. For the rest of his life, he died in 1987. Tony walked with a limp, had scars all over his body, and told people who asked, "Never disrespect Lucky Luciano. Not in person. Not by proxy. Not ever. Because that man doesn't make threats. He makes examples." The ice pick Lucky used that night, witnesses say he kept it, cleaned it, and continued carrying it until his death in 1962. Allegedly ended up in a private collection, supposedly authenticated with Tony Badalamenti's blood still in microscopic traces in the handle. Urban legend, but the story persists because it fits the legend. Lucky Luciano's ice pick. The tool he used to prove exile didn't mean retirement. Ristorante Umberto closed in 1965. Before it closed, regulars would point to the spot where Tony fell. That's where Lucky Luciano stabbed a man 22 times and then ate spaghetti. The building was demolished in 1970, but old-timers in Naples still tell the story about the night the American gangster showed everyone that respect isn't optional, that disrespect has consequences, brutal, bloody consequences, that Lucky Luciano, even in exile, even at 62, even 4,000 miles from New York, was still the most dangerous man in the room, and that if you're going to deliver a disrespectful message to a legend, you better be prepared for the response. 22 stab wounds, 90 seconds of calculated violence. 1 plate of spaghetti and meatballs. That's how Lucky Luciano reminded the world, exile is just a change of address. Power is permanent. Lucky Luciano died in 1962. At his funeral, someone left a single ice pick at his grave. No card, no explanation, just an ice pick. A reminder, a tribute, a symbol of the night Lucky proved that the chairman of the board never retires, even when the government tries to force him to. If this story of brutal mob justice shocked you, Hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you understand that in the underworld, respect isn't requested, it's demanded. Comment below, would you have been able to eat spaghetti after what Lucky just did? Remember, in organized crime, how you deliver a message matters as much as the message itself. Tony Badalamenti learned that lesson with 22 stab wounds.